So guys, today we are going to discuss one of the important concept of microservices, and that concept is the gRPC in .NET. So we will discuss what is gRPC, why we need gRPC, what is the difference between a REST and gRPC, what are the ideal scenario where you can go with the gRPC, what are the ideal scenario where you can go with REST, and how to implement gRPC in our microservices project. All these things we are going to discuss step by step. See, today when we are developing any application, we are targeting cloud, and most of the time, right? If we are developing RESTful services, the architecture on which the we are building is microservices based architecture. And in microservices based architecture, what is the main thing that we are targeting? Now we are splitting the application into many small services. For example, if you take the e-commerce application, what we are developing, that application is split into multiple services. We have order service, payment service, product service, user service, notification service. So different services are there. And this development, why we are making this now? Because we want to make our development faster. We want to implement a scaling so that right one of the service we can scale while other are not going to be scaled. Right. So, but when we are developing the application using microservices based architecture, then we are facing one challenge. What is that challenge? That inter-service communication. Microservices must communicate with each other all of the time, and that communication needs to be faster and reliable. See, so many teams start with REST API. So we also started our application development with the REST API. So order service, when we are placing the order service wants to communicate with the product service to check whether the product are available, to reduce the stock quantity. The order service needs to communicate with the, right, what I can say, user service to check whether the customer or the user is available, whether the user is active, and we are also fetching the, right, again we are also storing the addresses. We are going to communicate with the payment service to initiate the payment. So basically our order service communicating with multiple other services, and this communication, right, we generally right start with the REST API, because REST is very simple, REST is widely used, REST can be understood by anyone who understands HTTP. However, as the number of services grows, the amount of internal traffic increases. REST can start showing limitations. So basically, this is fine. Implementing REST for internal communication is fine. But as the number of internal communication increases, number of traffic increases, it can start showing some limitations, right? Sir, what are the limitations? Low latency, right? Request get processed and written very quickly. So service communication minimal delay. So basically, with REST, we cannot get the response very frequently, right? If the number of traffic area increases, that request time is going to be more. If number of request area increases, it will not handle the internal services, right, which is going to handle the external call from the client. That number of request cannot be increases. So with REST, that payload size is going to be very bigger. We want a small payload size. With REST, that contract is not going to be strongly typed. So whatever the client and the server, they can define the contract by their own. Sometimes there is a contract mismatch which we want to avoid. So these are the different right challenges that what we will face if you are working with the REST API. So this is where, right, to overcome these challenges, gRPC comes into the picture. Right, so this is where gRPC comes into the picture. Basically, what is gRPC? See, gRPC is not meant to replace REST. So don't consider that gRPC is coming into the market to replace REST everywhere. It is a specialized high performance communication approach, which is specifically designed for inter-service communication. So what do you mean by it? Now, basically, if you want to implement a faster inter-service communication when developing the application using microservices based architecture, then gRPC is one of the solution. but it is not replacing REST everywhere. For example, any external client. If any external client wants to consume your services, one and only option that is REST. REST 100% going to be there for external client communication. For faster internal client communication, gRPC is going to be there. So how gRPC makes our communication faster and REST over REST, we will see how it is going to make faster, how the communication is happening. That's what we are going to discuss. So what we are going to discuss first? First, we will discuss what is gRPC. So gRPC means what? Now the full form is Google Remote Procedure Call. So this is gRPC is a framework provided by right Google, and this framework allows one service to call another service. That means it is basically used for inter-service communication. But this service communication is happening like a local method call. So like the way we are defining method in our application, one method calling another method by using an instance of a class, by passing the required input parameter, and that method is going to return some response. The same way, right? In the same way, this gRPC allow right communication, right, like a local method call, even though the call is happening over the network. So behind the scene, that is going to happening over the network. It is going to send the request to the right other service. But from us, as a high level point of view, it is like a method call. So basically, what exactly it means? Like instead of preparing REST means what? Instead of preparing the controllers, preparing the URLs, preparing the JSON payload, preparing the endpoint. So we are not going to create any controller, any URL, any payload, any REST endpoint. Nothing is going to be there when you are using gRPC. gRPC is built on method, so you have to define a method. Method means function, that function is going to handle right the request and response messages. So this request and response messages are nothing but your what the function input and what the function is going to return, and a shared contract. This shared contract means it is a proto. So when I'm saying shared contract means what? It is a proto. Sir, what is a proto? That the proto is actually a text file. A proto is actually a text file, and that proto is going to be defined using this gRPC native language, and that proto is going to contain what methods are available as part of a gRPC, what input data those methods are taking, and what response they are returning. Those things are going to be defined by this proto file. Proto means what? Now it is a file with the .proto extension where we have defined the signature. So where we have defined the signature means what? Now what methods are available, what is their input data, what is their output data. Only the signature is going to be defined. And based on the signature, this is gRPC going to generate the implementation code in the service class, how that method is going to be implemented. Also, the client code. Client code means how that method is being called from another service. So basically, here we need to define the interface. You can consider this is the interface. The service class, right, you can consider where the method needs to be defined in which microservice. That method is going to be implemented in that class, and service where you want to call that method, that method calls to code is going to be generated. And good thing is that this is going to be done automatically. How this code is being generated automatically, how the client code is generated automatically, how the service code is generated automatically, in which microservice we want to generate the client code, in which microservice we want to generate the service code, we will see. But guys, remember, for this one, this shared contract means we need to create a shared class library project where we will define the right signature. If this is not clear at the moment, 100% I'm sure you are getting confusion, but don't worry, I'm going to show you this thing practically. So basically, if you are using gRPC, then what you can consider, now instead of calling URL and sending JSON, call the method and pass the strongly typed .NET object. So basically, whatever the request and response we defined here, these are nothing but your .NET type. So, all right, I mean gRPC will convert this request and response messages into .NET type, And that .NET type, the same .NET type, it is going to created in the client class. The same .NET type, it is also going to generate in server class. That means that communication is happening through .NET object, right? .NET object means what? That the data is going to be transferred in the form of a binary. So if you are passing a high payload with JSON data and you are passing strongly typed binary data 100%, the strongly typed binary data is going to be transferred much faster than the text-based data. This is the reason why it is going to give you better performance. And there is no confusion. There is no way there is a right mismatch. I will show you all these things practically, right? So from a developer's perspective, as a developer, if you are using gRPC, what exactly it means? It means you are calling a method, you are passing .NET object as input, you are receiving .NET object as a output. So at all networking, how the communication is going to be established, how to convert that right .NET object to binary, how to convert that binary to deserialize that binary to write the .NET object, how to write add the authentication header, any custom header. All these things are going to be handled by the gRPC frame. Clear? Clear,
Yes.
guys? Okay. So why gRPC framework we have already discussed, right? See, in microservices, we are having multiple services, order communicate with the payment, order communicate with the product, user service communicate with the notification service. Now imagine a single user request to trigger 10 to 20 internal call. Suppose I'm invoking one service and that service internally trigger let assume 10 to 15 or 20 internal call. Each call is very slow. Let assume if each call is slow and heavy. If that call is slow and heavy, the whole application becomes slow. Even though your microservices are perfectly written, but due to that network call 10 and 20 times, that call is going to be slow, then your application is going to be very slow. So the real question is, how do we make internal service communication faster? So basically, we have multiple options. In the interview, the interviewer might be ask you for internal right for internal communication, what are all the options available? You have to tell REST using HTTP1 protocol plus JSON, which is going to be synchronous. Message broker like RabbitMQ and Kafka, which is going to be asynchronous and event based, right? And third option is going to be gRPC, which is going to work on HTTP protocol and the protobuf. Protobuf means that right file that what we are creating, that is. So basically, out of these three, REST is HTTP based and JSON, and it is right what I can say synchronous. REST is not meant for internal communication. REST is for the external communication. What are the challenges with the REST? That the REST in REST that the JSON payload are going to be long. Parsing is going to be slow. Converting that JSON to .NET object to JSON is going to be take some time. It mostly rely on HTTP1 pattern, which can be less efficient when many calls happen simultaneously. API contract are the common documentation, right? So you have to define the API contract, and that is going to be used by the client, which sometimes create a mismatch between the client and the server. How? Now, suppose you shared one contract, later you modify the contract, then that is going to create some communication mismatch, communication gap between client and server. So REST is great for public APIs, or you can say external APIs, right? But inside microservices, it becomes less efficient as the number of traffic goes. Clear? This part is clear?
Yes.
Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. The second option is message broker, right? We have already discussed RabbitMQ, but this message broker, it is not for the right synchronous call. Means what? Now, if you want the immediate response, then for that purpose, message broker is not. mean, right? For example, now while placing the order, I want to check the whether the customer is available or not. I want to check the product details, right? I want the response immediately. For immediate response, this Kafka and RabbitMQ are not meant. They are meant for asynchronous communication. Asynchronous communication means what? Now I want to, right, publish the event, and that right event is going to be consumed by right other services later point of time. For example, I want to send the confirmation email. I want to send right the user notification. So for that kind of scenarios, right, this message broker is meant, but not for the synchronous call where we need the response immediately. Now, the third option is gRPC, which is going to be use HTTP2 protocol and the dot product, right? This protobuf means you can consider protocol buffer. Protocol buffer means what? That dot proto file that what we need to use. So gRPC is designed specifically for faster internal service communication. So it is based on HTTP2 protocol. Protobuf are the message format. So this protobuf is going to define the request object. It is going to define the response object, and this protobuf will take the responsibility of converting that .NET object into a small binary file. Again, right, it is releasing that small binary file to .NET object that is going to be taken care by strongly typed contract. So now there is no mismatch, right, related to the type. Type means whatever the property name, whatever all the properties are required, all are going to be same in the client as well as in the server. It also provides the streaming support. So streaming support means if you are working with right some kind of uh, Amazon Prime Video or Hotstar, right, where video services are provided, then in such kind of application, gRPC is also going to give a faster response. So in .NET Core Microservices, gRPC becomes a high performance internal RPC layer. RPC means guys the remote procedure call. So basically, remote procedure call means a procedure. Alternative name is method. So basically, one method that is available in another service, that method I'm calling from another service. That is nothing but remote procedure method, or you can say remote method call. That meaning, and this is provided by Google. So this is the reason why the name is provided as gRPC. G for Google, RPC for remote procedure call. So we have already discussed gRPC versus microservices theory. You can see now. Now to work with this gRPC, first of all, we need to understand the architecture. So basically, we have to understand one proto file we need to create, right? And that proto file going to define the method signature, going to define the contract, and this protocol is going to using this protocol, the framework is going to create the server code, which you can consider also server stop, the client code. So you can also call this as a client stop. Stop means code, right? So based on the protocol, automatically the framework is going to generate the server code. Automatically, it is going to define the client code. How it is going to define, we'll see. So now let us try to understand the architecture. Right. So basically, you have to define one proto file, dot proto file. So inside this dot proto file, you have to define the contract. Sir, what do you mean by contract? Contract means the method signature. So you can consider, uh, if you take our C# language in consideration, this is nothing but one interface. So in interface, you have to provide the method signature. Method signature means what? What is the method name? What is the method? What the data this method is going to define? I mean, going to return. What are the data this method is going to take? I mean, it is going to take as input parameter. Not only defining the contract, but also you need to define the signature. I mean, you need to provide the class definition. So whatever the data, for example, one class, right? I'm defining get by customer ID. So that customer ID, right, returning the customer object. That customer object means it is a complex object. What data you are going to return from that right method? So that class signature also you have to define here. So once this is done, then the framework is going to generate two type of a code. So basically, you have to define. Okay, I have defined this user dot proto. So this user dot proto, it is going to provide the services related to user functionality. Then what I need to do, then you have to define where I need to generate the client code, where I need to generate the service code. Okay, let me take the example of a order and a order service and a user service. So between user and order service, where I need to define the implementation. Implementation I need to define in the user service. Why? Because that is going to be consumed by order service. So order is going to be the client, user is going to be the service. So in order service, I need to define the implementation part. So basically define the implementation part means you need to tell the framework, hey, Mr. Framework, can you please generate the implementation code in the order service? Again, you need to tell, hey, Mr. Framework, can you please generate the method call code, right? I mean the client code in the order microservice, implementation code in the user microservice. So once the user microservice implementation code is defined, once the order code is defined, now that the order service will make use already this order service that client code is defined. Client code is defined means what? This method instance code is defined within here. So what this client code is going to do? He will create an instance and call that the respective method. So that method code is going to be defined here. And what is about gRPC? In gRPC, so basically this client code generation means what? So client code generation means here, guys, don't consider that the implementation it is providing, right? So client code generation means what? That method definition it is providing. So that class it is providing, that whatever the contract you define, that definition it is also providing. You have to implement the business logic. So how you are going to handle the right business logic, that what you need to provide. And here that the class, that what it is going to generate, these are going to be partial classes. And as this, it is generating the partial classes, so you can also create your own version of that class. But what is important thing that what you need to consider, now in this case, what should be the class name? What should be the method name? What are the right? What are the contract? Contract means you can say what are the details. You can take technical whatever the input to object, whatever input to class type, whatever the output to class type, right? All these things it is going to generate in our service class as well as in our client class. So the client class code means what? It is going to give you the signature, right? Hey, client, hey, you client, please call this method by creating an instance of this class. That's it. You have to call that method call. That's it. So internally, how to communicate with that service, how to prepare the I mean, how to convert that data to binary, how to get the I mean, how to get the uh, instances information. Instance information means what is the protocol, what is the endpoint details, not endpoint details, how to call that method. So all these things are going to be generated by the client. And then server side, he will provide you the method signature. All this thing is going to be provided. You just need to override the method. Overriding the method means you have to tell, right? You have to tell how to handle the business logic. So business logic you have to write. The rest of the things that is going to be provided by the protocol. So once your business logic is ready, once the method definition is provided, so what you need to do, you just need to call the client code, right? Client class method, and whatever the logic you have written in the server, that method logic is going to be executed, and executing that logic internally by communicating, by establishing a socket connection from our application to this client to server, executing that code using HTTPS, using binary code is going to be taken care by the framework. This is not clear at this moment. Don't worry. We are going to develop, we are going to discuss this thing right practically. So let us proceed and understand this concept right practical so that you will get clarity. Clear? Clear, guys?
Awesome.
Right. So we are going to implement this practical so that you will get the clarity. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to take one real-time application, right? In our microservices application, order creation is a critical operation. right? Before an order being successfully created, the system must validate multiple pieces of information in real time, right? So real time means it should communicate with other services. It should get the data as soon as possible. This validation must happen synchronously. Synchronously means it should wait till the response it come until and unless it is not getting the response, it should not proceed further. So in our application, user validation should be happen. In user validation, we need to check whether the user exists, whether the user active, whether the user verified, whether the user allowed to place the order, and whatever all user related information. Similarly, we need to fetch the product details from the product microservice with right, whether the product available, what are the product prices, whatever the quantity the user is expected, whether that quantity is available in the database or not, right? Stock availability, all these things are going to be validated before placing the order, right? And this is the ideal scenario where we can use gRPC to make the communication faster, right? So basically, right, if you look at this, now in user service, right, for user service is gRPC call. So in user service, we need some gRPC call where we should get the data by ID. So we need to define this get by user ID method, which should take the user ID access token and it should return the user details. So get user by ID. So one gRPC method we need to define, which should take this information and it should return with the data. Again, we want to save or update the shipping address. So basically, if you look at this, right, currently, this is my order service. In order service, we are having this infrastructure layer. In infrastructure layer, we are having this user service client. So basically, you can see in user service client, we are having multiple method. What are the method? Now, user exist, get user by ID, get user address by ID async, and save or update address. So now all these methods are there in the user service client, and these methods are going to be used by our application layer. So if you go to the application layer, services, order services, so in client code, you can see or create order client. So here you can see get user by ID async, save or update address async. So here this method we are calling. Similarly, if you look at the product service, so here you can see get product by ID method, get product by ID async method, right? Returning multiple. So here check product availability, right? Stock update async. So these methods are pro decrease and increase stock. So these methods are provided. So now what I need to do is, right? So and technically, if you look at this method implementation, so they are using what type of a communication protocol? HTTP client. HTTP client means it is making use of REST API.
Yes.
So it is making up a REST API. How it is making up a REST API? So if you go to the infrastructure layer, in the infrastructure layer, we are registering this HTTP client where we are specifying the base address. So basically, this product service and user service currently they are using a RESTful based authentication. I mean, they are making use of REST to send the request, right? So here you can see send async method, and it is dealing with the JSON data. It is setting the header. It is getting the status code. Again, it is converting that response to dotnet object, right? So all these things are happening here. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no? Right now. Now, what I want to do is now instead of using REST API, instead of using REST API, I want to convert this communication gRPC based. So now I don't want to use this logic. I want to use my own logic, which is going to communicate using a gRPC. So I'm not going to change this user service client. I'm not going to change this product service client. So basically, I want to create something called a gRPC service client inherited from the product service client. Similarly, I'm going to generate something called a user, right? gRPC user service client, gRPC product service client. So basically, I'm going to create another implementation class of this I user service client and of this I product service client, and that another implementation class whatever I'm going to create it, that is going to make use of a gRPC based communication. So what changes we are going to do, is that clear?
Yes.
right? So instead of using this, right, it's a restful based communication. I'm going to make use of a gRPC based communication. So these are the things, right? Whatever gRPC method we are going to define, that what I have provided the signature here. Now, let us proceed and implement this step by step. So the first step is we need to generate a contract project. So this contract project means what? This project is going to be referred by a client microservice as well as going to be referred by the server microservice. And within this contract project, we need to define what methods are available and what input parameters are going to be taken by the method, what output parameters are going to be taken by the method. And this method is going to be implemented by service layer. This method is going to be consumed by the client layer. So this is what we need to define. So first of all, create one solution folder to our projects. So let me add a solution folder. Name, give the name as a gRPC. So within this solution folder, I want to create a class library project. So I want to create a class library project. That name is going to be this one, e-commerce.grpc contract. So within this gRPC folder, add a new project, and to this and the project is going to be a class library project, because we only want to we don't want any kind of thing. So only the method signature, and for that method signature, the best project type is going to be a class library project. So let me create the class library project e-commerce.grpc contract. Click next and click the create button. So let me remove this auto-generated class file. So once you generate this class file, next you need to generate the rate, what I can say, e-commerce. I mean, next we need to install the packages. So basically, we need to install two packages. One is a protocol buffer, and another is the tools package. This protocol buffer package, it is the core protocol buffer serialization package. So basically, how you are going to write into the serialization from .NET object to binary, from binary to .NET, right? That is what going to be handled by this protocol buffer. And this gRPC tool, this package is going to provide, this package is going to help to generate the C# code from the .proto file. So from the .proto file, what we are going to create, so from that .proto file, it is going to generate the C# code. And this package, it is going to help for the read serialization and deserialization. I mean, converting .NET object to binary and from binary to .NET. So these two packages we need to install. Where we need to install these two packages? Within this e-commerce.grpc contract. Is that clear why we are installing these two packages? Clear or not? So one package will help in the case of a serialization and deserialization. One package is help for generating the C# code from our .proto file. So .proto file we have not yet created. In some time we are going to create, but this is the package. These are the two packages that what we need to install. So let me go to the tools, package manager console. E-commerce.grpc contract, protocol buffer package. So when I'm saying protocol buffer, you have to consider serialization and deserialization. So converting .NET to binary and binary to .NET. So this is the package which is help in generating the C# code from our .NET file. So these two packages we need to install, right? So once we install these two packages, now we need to create our proto file. So first of all, create a folder called Protos. So basically, this proto file is nothing but it is a text file. So there is no specific extension .proto available in our Visual Studio. So basically, we need to create a text file and we need to provide the extension as a proto. So this proto file, basically what is a proto file? Now proto file is going to define the gRPC services. So gRPC services means what? Now whatever the methods are available for remote service call, those method we need to define within the file. So let us proceed and understand. Not only defining the method within the proto file, we also need to define what are the incoming message format, what are the outgoing message format. I mean the request message format, response message format. So all these things we need to define. So how to create a proto file? So let us proceed and do this. So I need to create one proto file with the name user proto. So basically, right click on this file folder, add existing item, not existing add item, add new item. So right click on the folder, add new item. So it should open the new item window. From this new item, so search for the text file. So from here, search for the text file. Select this text file. Give the name as user.proto. So whatever name you want to give, you can give, but the extension must be proto. And click on the add. So this user.proto file, it will create an empty file. So this user.proto file going to define the user related gRPC services. So basically, this proto file means what? Now currently you can see this is my user service client. So basically whatever the method required for our operation, those methods we need to define within this along with the input and output object. So let us try to understand this code, right? What exactly this code? Let us try to observe. So this is a little bit tricky, but very easy. So this is syntax proto thing. What is the protocol version, proto version you are using? That what you need to specify from the beginning. Similarly, if you are creating any HTML5, so you have to specify HTML5, that HTML5 version you are using. Similarly, this proto has a different version. Latest one is a 3. So I'm specifying whatever the code I'm writing behind here. This is using proto version 3, which is the latest one, right? Now let us try to understand. See, so basically, whenever the C sharp code is going to be generated, so whenever the C sharp code means whatever the class for the services, class for the rate of request object, response object, whatever it is going to generate. So those needs to be generated in a specific namespace. So the syntax for which namespace the classes are going to be generated, that what you can specify using option C sharp namespace. So this is going to my C sharp namespace. For example, if you want class is going to be generated with the name user gRPC. So that class name is going to be like this. So whatever the namespace we provided, that is gRPC. So user exist request. Suppose you want to create one object, right? I mean this one. So if you are getting confusion, let assume I'm providing the class name as a customer TTU, or you can say user TTU. So that class name is going to that if the class name is this one, then that interface that namespace is going to be. I mean that this is going to be my namespace. So the fully qualified class name is going to be whatever the namespace we specified, that class name dot that class name. So this is the fully qualified class name. This is how it is going to generate. So using this C sharp namespace, you can define, right, what should be the, right, what should be the namespace within your application. So this is not a C sharp namespace package. Means if you are working with Java, then this package will come into the picture, or internally it is going to make use. So as per the standard, we need to provide this package namespace, but this is not for a C sharp application, right? So this is for the Java people. Java people have they are using packages, and in .NET we are using namespaces. Internally both are going to be same, both you need to specify. And again, the next one is this is going to my service class. So basically, please observe. So in this case, right, how it is going to be generated. So this is user gRPC. So technically, it is going to create one class. Technically, it is going to create one class. That class name is going to be user gRPC. So this is service user gRPC means what? Now it is similar to a controller. So is user service very similar to a controller? Suppose I'm specifying. So this is very similar to a controller, but not a controller. So this is similar to a controller. As in controller, you are defining an action method. So in gRPC, you need to define the service method. So this is very similar. So within this gRPC, we need to define some service method. And this service method, whatever we defined here, these are going to be called by the client. So for inter-service communication, whatever the method we defined within this gRPC, this method are going to be invoked by the, right, what I can say, client. So what is this RPC user exist request return exist reply. So what is this statement? So this RPC exist means what? Now in this case, this is going to be the method name. User exist is going to be. See, this is RPC syntax. I'm trying to make you understand the syntax. So from this, what C# statement is going to generate? Let me show you. So this is the statement. And from this statement, what exactly it is going to generate? It is going to generate one method, public. That method is going to return request, user exist reply. This is going to be a class file. Method name is going to be this one, and method is going to take this input parameter. So this is what it is going to define. You have to provide the implementation. That method signature is going to be this one. So in this case, this user exist request, this is going, again, it is going to create a class file. So class user exist request, and also it is going to create another class user exist reply. Clear? So from this syntax, you have to understand this is going to be the, right, what I can say, method name. This is the input parameter, and this is the output parameter. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Right now. Now here, as these are class type, then as this is a class, then definitely this class should have some input, I mean some property. And this is also a class. That means this class should have some right property. So what are the input property and the output property? That what also we need to define. So you can see inside this user exist request, there is a string property. User exist request. So in this case, it is going to create a public string property. Public string, and this is the first property, right? So first property, one means this is going to be the first property. Clear? And this user ID, whatever we provided here, it is using which case? Snake case, right? So this snake's case, you will be converted into Pascal case automatically. So now this user ID, whatever we defined here, that will be converted into something like this. Clear? Clear or not? Similarly, we are having this, you write this method user exist reply. So here also we are having this boolean exist parameter. So this boolean exist parameter, whatever we defined here, that will be converted into, right, something like this, public boolean, and again this will convert it to exist, right? Pascal case. So automatically you have to define the snake case, that will be converted into Pascal case. So this method signature, right? This is the, right, what I can say, uh, output response. So this message means it will convert this message into a class file. Clear? This part is clear. This user exist method, how that, what should be the method name? What are the input to object or input to right class? What is the output class? What should be the signature? How this is going to be generated, right, by the framework? What type of a class it is going to generate? Is that clear?
Yes.
Hmm. Now, now second one is fetch user details. Guys, remember whatever you defined within this service class, these are the service method. Service method means these are the method that can be consumed, that can be called by someone else. If using message, if you define some method here, they are not going to be called. So only method which is available within the service class, those are available. See, get user by ID. So now tell me, what is the method name? What is the
Get
method name?
user by ID. Get
So what
user
is
by
the
ID.
input parameter? This is the input parameter, get user by ID request. And what is the output? Get user ID reply. So now you come to the site. So here you will see, right, get user by ID request. It is taking the user ID. This user ID will be converted into a Pascal case. Get user by ID reply. So in reply, you can see, so Boolean found one. So one Boolean parameter, it is going to return. And that Boolean parameter is going to tell, right? Okay, let us try to understand this thing. So this is going to be a class file. So this is a Boolean parameter. And what type of a parameter this? This is user. User means it is a complex type. So if it is not a built-in type, and if it is a complex type, that complex type signature you want to provide. So here I'm providing this user signature. What is that signature? ID. So what you want to return? Okay, let me show you this thing. So it is going to create one class file. So let me show you this thing also here. What should be the signature? So this message will become a class boolean found. So this is going to be something like this one, get set. This is user. So this is going to be a complex type. So as it is a complex type, so what are the properties that should available within this user type? That what we need to define. So that is going to be defined by this one. So again, this message becomes a class. So class user. Again, this properties. So these properties will become here, right? What I can say, uh, Pascal case, right? So I need to convert this to ID. This full name become, this is a snake case. So full name become full name. This is email. This is phone number. So the properties are going to be something like this. Clear? Clear or not? So
Yes.
now,
Yes, sir.
right, from this method, when it return get user id reply, so get user id reply, that is going to contain one boolean parameter going to tell whether the user exists or not. If the user exists, then it is also going to return the user object, and as part of the user object you will get what is the user id, full name, email, and the phone number. This is the data it is going to return. Clear? Are you getting the syntax, right? What code it is going to generate it behind the scene? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So next what we are going to discuss get user address by ID. So as you have already understand, so this is going to be my method name. This is going to be the input parameter. This is going to be the output parameter. Get user address by ID request. So now if you come down here, get so we have discussed till now. So this is going to be get user by address ID. So here you can say I'm taking user ID and the address ID. So this user ID will become user ID. This address ID will become address ID. Similarly, in this case, it is going to return get user address by ID reply. So here you can see this is found and this is the address object. And as part of the address object, right, what data it is going to return. So you can see address, that message address should be defined somewhere. So this is the address. So it is going to return ID, user ID, address line 1, address line 2, city, state, postal code, country, is default billing, is default shipping. All this information, that is what it is going to return. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Right?
So
Similarly,
this
the last is yes.
1 and 2 you're giving that value, those are required or
Yes, these are mandatory. As per the syntax, the parameter sequence you need to provide starting from one.
Okay. So these are the order only.
Yes, order only, nothing else, order.
Okay.
Now, the last one is save or update address. So this is my input parameter. This is going to be my output parameter. So what are the input we need? Save or update address. You can see save or update address. It is taking the address detail. Address detail means these are the data. Similarly, this is save or update address reply. So as part of the save or address update reply, what it is returning? It is returning the address ID. So these are this is going to my user proto. Is that clear? What the signature, what is the syntax? Is that clear? Now, this user GPC class, what we defined here, that class is going to be created, right? In the client code, this class is going to be a client, and in server class, this class is going to be created as a base. So technically, in your client code, when it is going to generate the code, it will create one class file user gRPC client, and in the right, what I can say, in the server code, it will generate the class name with this name, user gRPC base class. Clear? This is the signature. So whatever the name you provided, they are going to append a client and a base. So base class means it is the server code. Client class means it is the client code. In the base class, you have to provide the implementation, and the client class, you have to call the implementation. So this is one of the proto file we created. The second proto file we are going to create is the product.proto. So you have to follow the same approach. Let me go ahead and create the class file. So within right click, add new item, select for text files, give the file name as a product.proto. Again, copy paste this code. Okay. Now let us try to observe. So again, this is the syntax, this is the namespace, this is not used for our right, .NET application, right? This is going to be used internally, but generally this is for the package Java people. So now product gRPC. So this is the service name, or you can say this is the controller, and these are the action methods, right? So this is my method name. This is my input parameter, get product by ID's request. This is going to be the response. This is check product availability request and response. Similarly, this is the method name. This is increase stock, and this is a decrease stock. This is input parameter. This is output parameter. This is input and output parameter. Now check by product ID request. I'm taking product ID. So now you have to remember one thing. So if I'm not using repeated, then what will happen? Now, if I'm not using repeated, this means it is going to take a single product. Repeated means it is a list of a product ID. So basically, this repeated signature, right? If you are seeing this repeated, what exactly it means? It means it will create the class file. So class, this one, and within this class file, it is going to create, as it is repeated, so it is going to create a list of a string. And product IDs, that name will become something like this, product underscore IDs. Clear? So what is the use of a repeated? Repeated means it is going to create a collection. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? And the response, repeated product. So repeated product means what? Repeated product means what? So this is
List.
my this one. And what should be the type? List of a product. Right? So again, this product, it is a right, you can say custom type. So as part of a product, what data it is going to return? It is going to return this data. So basically, this becomes a class product string. It will become ID, right? So product name, it will become name, that is going to be into Pascal case, right? Again, let me remove. See, right? By default, guys, remember, by default, whatever the data you are passing, they are coming as I mean this protocol, this gRPC, whatever syntax they provided, they do not provided anything for decimal. They do not provided anything for decimal. So decimal data we are expecting in the form of a string, and internally we need to convert that string into decimal to string. So point you have to remember, decimal data type is not provided by proto, so we have to use string to work with the decimal data type. So here you can see string price, string discounted price. So this will become right string price. This will become string discounted price. And internally, what we need to do, we need to convert this price and the discount price from string to decimal. And while we are setting, we need to pass. So integer 32, this will become integer data type. And here the property name is going to be stock quantity. And this is going to be something like this. Now, so what data it is going to list of a product, list of product, for each product, what data it is going to contain, this data. Clear?
Yes.
Yes. So this is the stock check item. So stock check item means one stock check item. So here you can see what is the product ID quantity, that what you need to take. Then stock check result. So once you take this product ID and quantity, whether this is available or not. So for that purpose, it is going to return this response. Product ID, each valid product, each quantity available, and what are the available quantity. So that is what it is going to return. Similarly, check product availability request. So again, stock it checks product stock availability request. This is for the bulk operation. Suppose you are taking some stock check item. So here repeated means what is exactly this statement means. So it will create a class file. Yes. Okay. Let me copy this one. So how it is? So message will convert it into class. That the class name is this one. Repeated means it is converted into list of
List.
list of stock check items. That property name will become Pascal case items, and here you can specify the get and set access. Right, so this is going to be my class name. Again, this stock check item, this is a class file. So what are the data that is available for the stock check item? So let us try to see. So stock check item. So what is the data available as part of stock check item? So these things. So this is my class already defined class file. So this is string product ID. So I'm not converting into Pascal case. You can consider. So it is taking a list of a stock check item. And for each stock check item, it is taking the product ID and the quantity. Earlier, we have discussed with the one, and this is now for the collection. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
All right. So this is how you need to define the profile. So now once the profile is defined, next what I need to do, I need to do two things. What are the things I need to do? So I need to tell where the code is going to be generated. So do you want to generate this code everywhere in the client application, in the server application? Every code is you want to generate everywhere, or you want to generate a client code in the client microservice, server code in the server microservice, where you want to generate. So that's what I need to tell. So for this purpose, what I need to do, I need to specify the item group, right? So how you can specify? Now just open the CSPros file. So within this CSPros file, I'm creating one item group. So in the item group, I'm specifying, right? I'm specifying this proto.user.dto, user.proto, and the product.proto gRPC service node. So this is important. So gRPC service none means automatically it is not going to generate all the code anywhere. So right, I mean the code is going to be generated explicitly. Right? Do not generate gRPC server and client code here. So within this application, I'm not going to generate the client and server code. So client code I want to generate in the client microservice. Server code I want to generate in the server microservice. So if that is what your requirement, so you have to specify the same thing using this gRPC service. And here you have to specify none. None means now the client and server code is not going to be generated within this contract project. I will generate client code in my client microservice. I want to generate the service code in my right service microservice. For example, in our application, in our order place, order is the client microservice, product is one of the microservice, and user is another server microservice. Client order will communicate with the product, order will communicate with the user. So in user, user and product, they will be considered as server, and order will be considered as my client, right? So the respective code I'm going to generate in the respective microservices. I'm not going to generate such client and server code within this contract project. And how we can specify the same by using this item group. So here we need to specify for this user.proto, don't generate the gRPC code here, and same for the product.proto. So don't generate the client and the server C# code here. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So once you specify this thing, right, then what I need to do, I need to add gRPC server support to existing microservices. So now three microservices we are going to deal with. One is a client microservice, and the two are going to be the server microservice. So which project are going to be work like a server, user microservice, as well as a product microservice? Which microservice is going to work like a client, that order microservice? So let us start with the right server microservice. So let us go ahead and add the gRPC support for existing microservices. So basically, let's start with the user and product microservice, which here is going to be our server. And later I will show you how to work with the client microservice, right? So let us go ahead and add the endpoint, right? So first of all, what I need to do, in both, right, in user service.api project, right, these are the two service projects. So user service.api and the product service.api. Within this two API project, I need to provide the gRPC support. So how I can provide the gRPC support? We need to install the required package. So this is gRPC.asp.NET Core. What is the use of this package? Now it is going to host our gRPC services inside the ASP.NET Core application. Where our ASP.NET Core application is hosted, it will also host the gRPC services, right? So not only your controller code is going to be hosted, the gRPC code is also going to be hosted, right? So that the client can consume these services. See, guys, you have to remember, until and unless you have not hosted your application code, the client cannot consume them. Now, so as we have already created this microservices, and we are already hosting this user service.api, product service.api. Yes, we have already hosted. So hosted means what? They are hosting our controller classes, they are hosting our controller code services, right? And whatever the controller expose the red action method, they are nothing but our endpoint, and this endpoint we can consume using REST services. At the same time, whatever the server right gRPC endpoint we are going to define, those needs to be consumed over the network, but using gRPC method call. So first of all, if they want to consume over the network, they must be hosted. And for hosting that automatically, right, we need to install this package which provide gRPC hosting support in ASP.NET Core. So this protobuf we have already discussed. This is for the serialization and the serialization, and this is for generating the code automatically. So these three packages we need to install in both user service.api project, product service.api project. Is that clear? Clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us proceed and install this thing, right? Install these packages. So open first of all user service.api, user service.api I selected. gRPC hosting support will be provided by this package. Next one is Google protobuf. This is for serialization and deserialization. This is for generating the server code in this machine. So I want to generate only the server code. And the same thing I need to do within the product service.api. So ASP.NET Core, protobuf, tools. So the packages we have installed. So once the packages we have installed, now let's tell me how many protofile we have created. How many protofile we have created? Two protofile. What are the protofile? User proto and product proto. Now, how many microservices we have? Right, multiple microservices. Now tell me, this user related functionality or this gRPC call, we need to define in which microservice?
Out.
Sorry? I'm saying the implementation part, where we need to provide the business logic, where we need to define the server code. Out of all these services, see, which is going to be the service, right? Server for user related functionalities.
User service.
Obviously, user service. In right, the database is there in the user service. The business logic is going to be there in the user service. So obviously, this user service method called signature going to be implemented in the right user GPC going to be implemented in the user microservice. So and where we need to define this product portal, it should be defined in the product
Auto
microservice.
service.
Clear? Right? That the client code is going to be in the order service, but now we are working with the server code. Server code means these two, right? User proto need in the user microservice, product proto need in the product microservice, right? So how we can do this thing? So first of all, we need to add a link to this file from our project, right? For example, from our user service.api project, we need to add a link to user profile. From product service.api project, we need to add a link to the product proto profile. So how we can add link? Let us start to observe. So this is my product service. This is my user service. So let's start with the user service. So user service, right click on the service, add existing item. So right click on your user service.api project, add existing item. So once you select add existing item, go to the location where you defined your proto. So basically this is my e-commerce project. So this is my e-commerce.gRPC. This is my proto. So which proto I need to select? User proto. But here, don't add, click this add button. So just go to drop down and here you will find add as a link. Click this one. Clear? And once you
Yes.
add this as a link, you will see this is user proto now. Now, in this project, right, user service.api, what code we want to generate? Client code or server code or both? What code I need to generate automatically?
Server code.
Right? So for that purpose, what you need to do, right click, go to the properties of that folder, and here gRPC stop class. So currently it is by default setting client and server. So we have to select this server only. Apply. Okay. Clear? Is that clear? And
Yes.
now from my product microservice, what I need to do, right click on the product API, add existing item, then go to this right gRPC contract, Protos folder, product.proto, select this add as link. Again, right click here, go to the properties, set this to server only. Apply and okay. Clear or not? Till now, anyone having any question?
Add link means that a reference or what, like
Sorry.
what's the like when we are adding a link as add as a link means like uh what's the difference like if we add file or add a
See,
link? Yes.
Add as a link means what? Automatically, if you do some changes within this user proto and the product
Profiles.
proto,
Okay.
those changes are going to be reflected automatically
Reflect.
with the
Okay.
right automatically, right? So that
Okay.
is the link. So now once we have done this, right? Because we are not referring to the project. Project means add a project reference. Here we are just adding a link to this proto file so that the code is going to be generated automatically, right? So once this link are being added, right? Next, what I need to do? I need to right use the implementation part. See, so with these changes, right, what I can show you is that auto-generated files are going to be generated. So now let me build the project. So now let me build the user service project, rebuild. Okay, build succeeded. Now within this project, right, if you visit this obj debug.net 8.0, you will see the auto-generated code, right? So user service, right? Go to the folder obj debug.net 8.0. You should see that file user gRPC. This file is there. Yes or no?
Yes.
And this user's gRPC file name, whatever I'm showing you, is that file available? That name is the same as this one.
Yes.
Now you can open this file, right? And here you will see user service.grpc. So open Visual Studio. So you can see this is the auto-generated source code. So this is my partial class name user gRPC, right? And that generated code you can see, and this is my base class. So this is the partial class what they have provided as part of the gRPC, right? But this is the within this class, so it is created another base class. So this is the base class. This class we need to provide, and here we need to provide our implementations. Right? So user gRPC base class and all the method, right? That logic they have written, right? And explaining this logic out of the scope. So here you can see it is using some method, and this method implementation, so we need to provide, right? So let us proceed and provide the implementation. So now if you look at this, so check whether a user exists. So now if you go to this user proto, we have provided multiple method. Check whether a user exists. What is the method name? User exists. Now you can see the same thing here also. So user exist method is there. Yes or no? Taking this is the request object. This is the right uh, data that what it is taking. So now this is the response. This is the method name, and this is the request object. Is that clear? If you see
Yes.
what is the method name, get product by right get not this one. So what is the method name in this case? User exist. That same method is available here. What is the input parameter? User exist request. So that user exist request is there. And what is the fully qualified name it is using? That namespace plus class name. And this is the namespace that what we specified here. And this is the return user exist reply. So this is the user exist reply return type. Now, if you go to this one, user exist request or user exist reply, so go to this one, go to the definition, you will see that class file again. So it is generating this user.cs. So whatever the right user exist reply. So user exist reply. So here it is creating this class file automatically. So here you can see user exist reply. Go to the definition, user exist reply. So here you can see whatever the properties are there that what you define. So this is how you need to work with right what I can say uh, protofile. So explaining this auto-generated code is beyond the scope of this session, but yes, and And again, one more thing, you don't need to touch the auto-generated code. Whatever the code is being generated, they are generated. We should not touch them as a developer. Now what I need to do is I want to provide the implementation part. So that how we are going to provide the implementation part, let us try to observe. So first of all, we need to provide the user service related implementation part. So let me create a folder named gRPC service. So, so this is my user service.api. So let me create a folder gRPC services. And within the services, I need to create a class file with the name user gRPC service.cs. You can consider this user gRPC service is very much similar to your controller. So, and within this class, we need to define the action method. So basically what I need to do, I need to implement the gRPC base class. gRPC user gRPC base class, and I need to provide the implementation. So let me go ahead now. So now in this case, you can see we are having user controller, and in user controller we have defined many methods. So you can see the get profile method is there, update profile method is there, right? Add or update address, get address. So these methods are there, and these methods we also need to define within the gRPC implementation. So first of all, user gRPC service, and it is inherited from the gRPC base class. So here you can see this is the user gRPC base class, and this class is a child class under this class. So I have to access this fully qualified class using the parent class dot the child class. So in this case, you can see this is the parent class, and within this parent class, this is going to be the child class user gRPC base. So basically, this user gRPC base provide the method signature. What should be the method name? What is the input parameter, and what data you want to return. So that's what they have provided. Business logic, we have tried. Whether the user exists or not, what service method we need to call, that logic we need to define. And for that purpose, we have already this iUser service class. So this iUser service we have already implemented, and the logic we have already written. So we only want to reuse those services, right? So now, see, this method, they have provided the implementation, but no business logic, only what is the method name, what is the input parameter, what is the output parameter, and empty body. So that is what they have provided. So what we need to do, we need to override those methods. So now if you go to the definition, then you will see these methods are virtual methods. So virtual method means what? Can anybody tell me? What do you mean by virtual method? Virtual method means it is a method which giving the permission to the child classes. It is a method with a body, but it is also giving the permission to the child classes. Hey, Mr. Child class, if you want, you can override this method. So virtual means it is giving permission to the child class to override the method. And here you can see all these methods are defined as virtual method. So these four methods we can provide implementations, right? So now I'm providing the implementation. So user exists. So whatever the data they are defined, that user exist request, user exist reply. So the same class file I'm using, and this same class file I'm using in the service code, and the same class file I'm also going to use in the client code, right? So this is what I have to take request object. I'm checking whether the user ID. Now you can see in the user proto. So user proto, user exist request, it is using snake case. But I mentioned, so this snake case will convert to Pascal case. So in this case, right in this user service class, you can use the Pascal case, right? So user ID, whether this user ID is a GUID. So the client will pass the user ID as a GUID string. But GUID is not supported by Protos. So I'm creating here string. So I need to check whether this is convertible to GUID or not. If it is not convertible, so I can return this error message, right? Then I'm checking, I'm calling the service class user ID method. If that user is exist, then I'm going to return true, right? This exist user exist reply is there, and this user exist reply, this is going to contain one property, right? Okay, let me go to the implementation. one property is going to be there. Exist. So you can say this is the property, right? Exist property, that what it is going to return, right? That exist property means it is a Boolean type, and you can set this is going to return a Boolean value. That what we can set. This method is clear. See, here we are simply calling this service class method, passing the user ID and whatever the data it return, that what we are returning. But we are returning the data through the type that what defined by the proto. Clear? Clear or not? Yes or no? Are
Yes.
you guys there? Anyone is here?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So now, next, this is get user by ID, the same method I'm checking. And here I'm calling this get profile async method by passing this user ID. And this method will return me the data in the form of a DTO. So can I return this DTO from this method? No, I can't return. Why? Because this is against the proto syntax. Proto, whatever the syntax they define. You need to provide get user by ID reply. So within this method, what you need to do, once you got the profile data, you need to convert that profile data into the type that what is required by this get user by ID. So we are converting that to e-commerce.grpc contracts.user type. So from where you will get this type? If you go to this one, so write get user by ID reply. This is the class, and within this class file, found property and user property is there. So found I set to true, and user property it is a class. And what is that class name? User. But again, this class is going to be created with this namespace. So that fully qualified namespace plus class name I provided, and whatever the profile data, that what I can return. Same thing, get a user address by ID, calling the service class method, right? You can see, and returning that same logic, right? So here I'm also using the same logic, right? Get user address by ID. Clear?
Yes.
Clear, guys? Anyone having any question?
Clear.
Right? And this is save or update address. Means the logic we have already implemented. We are just doing the same thing. So here we are not returning the DTO. We are going to return the data based on the type what we defined in the proto file. So that conversion we are doing here. Otherwise, there is nothing serious. Right? We are simply using our existing user service logic. So next, what I need to do, I need to generate my what I can say service class for the product service, right? Again, we need to do the same thing, right? Once this is done, we need to add, right? Again, in the user service, what I need to do, I need to register my proto services. So go to the user service program.class file. So add the gRPC service. So this will help, right? This will help to provide the gRPC services so that right that the conversion and all these things are going to be happening. This is gRPC service, and also I need to register that gRPC into the application program pipeline. So let me also do the same thing here, right? gRPC service. We are registering our gRPC service class, and also right this is a gRPC service means this is our I'm hosting my gRPC service within ASP.NET Core, and here it is giving the services, right? Whatever all required services required for gRPC, that is what provided by this service class. So this add gRPC service class provide gRPC server infrastructure, HTTP2 protocol, protobuf serialized gRPC serialization, right? gRPC specific middleware, gRPC model binding, all these things are provided by this statement. And this statement, this middleware, what exactly it is doing? Now it is telling ASP.NET Core expose the RPC method in user proto at runtime. So at runtime, whatever the method we defined, within this user gRPC service, please expose so that any client, they can consume this method. So for that purpose, we are registering this middleware service component. Now, next, what I need to do? Clear, guys? What is the use of this tool? So this will give the infrastructure for gRPC, and this will enable, right, gRPC services at runtime so that the client can consume these methods. Clear?
Yes.
Right. Next, what I need to do? I need to provide the same pattern for the product implementation, right? So first of all, create one folder called the gRPC services, where within the product microservice API layer, gRPC services. Then product gRPC service, right? And then copy the code. The same logic we have implemented here. So you can see, right? You can see get product by IDs method. Internally, it is calling this get by ID method, right? And then it is preparing the result what it wants to return. This is check products availability, whether a product available or not. That what it is checking, right? By right, verifying stock product, right? So async method it is calling, increase the stock and decrease the stock. This method we have provided the implementation. This is the helper method, right? So internally you can see the logic is written within this service class inventory service, which is going to decrease the stock. This is going to increase the stock, right? And it is going to check whether the right stock are available for that particular DTO. So DTO in the sense you can see I'm getting the request in this form. I need to convert this check product availability request to a DTO, and to a DTO that should be acceptable by this service class. So what type of DTO? Product stock info request DTO. So I'm looking through all the items and converting that to my DTO type, and that DTO finally I'm returning to the I'm sending to my class method. And here, right, I'm also taking this validation. If you want to ignore this validation, that is fine. But again, here product ID I'm getting as a right string. I'm converting that to GUID. So that is the reason why this GUID conversion you will find everywhere. Finally, this is going to my result, which is going to be a DTO, and I'm converting that DTO into my return type of this method, that is stock check result. So this is going to be the code, right? So nothing critical. The way we have implemented this user service, in the same way the method code is implemented. Now once this is done, next what I need to do, again I need to add these two components. So one is the service. So let me add the service component, and another one is the middleware component. So this is what we need to add here. Anywhere you can add this component, no issue. Now we have implemented our service code. Now we need to implement our client code. So the client code means that gRPC method call. So gRPC method call means what? Guys, gRPC method call means what? Now it means gRPC method call means what? Now it means communicating with the external world. So now my order service wants to communicate with the product service. That means it is a external communication, yes or no?
Yes.
Guys, give me 1 minute. So guys, tell me, out of all these 5 projects, 6 projects, which layer is responsible for external communication?
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure layer. So basically, any external communication, whether it is dealing with the database, whether it is doing some REST services, whether it is going to do some RPC method call, that the communication is external means it should be part of our infrastructure layer project, right? So now, first of all, what I need to do, right? I need to define the gRPC contract. We have already defined contract. We have already implemented the service code. Now we need to implement the client code. So first of all, we need to install these packages, right? So this is going to be client factory. So this package we need to install first. This is going to give the HTTP client factory so that gRPC client call can be happening. gRPC core API, it is going to give the support for the gRPC related types like gRPC exception, gRPC metadata, gRPC status. This port group, this is the protocol proper for used for the serialization and deserialization. This is for generating the client code, right? So let us first install these packages. So where I need to install within my order service dot infrastructure layer project. So let me go ahead. Order service dot infrastructure where order service dot infrastructure layer. So let me install the client so that the client class I can generate and consume whatever the HTTP client required. Then this is going to provide the core gRPC support so that the related classes we can use. This is for the serialization and deserialization. And finally, this is for generating the client code. So this tools package, it is basically used to generate both service code as well as the client code. So once we have done this, right, then what we need to do, we need to add a reference to both the proto files. So from this class, infrastructure layer, right, order service dot infrastructure layer, I want to communicate with both the proto, right? I want to, from this infrastructure layer, I want to communicate with the, right, what I can say, product microservice. I want to communicate with the user microservice. That means I need both the protofile references, right? So what I'm going to do is right click on this infrastructure layer, add existing item. And here select both the protofiles. So one by one. So gRPC contract, Protos. So here you have to select all files. So user proto, product first. Let me first select the product photo, add as a link, and then I'm also going to add the another proto file. Select all files. So user proto, add as a link. So these two files I have added, and now I need to set, right, once you have added, where what type of code I want to generate here. I want to generate the client code or service code.
Client.
Client code. So select this client only, click OK, and do the same thing for user proto. So go ahead and select this client only, apply, OK. Clear? This part is clear?
Yeah.
Right. Now I want to create a one folder gRPC client. So in this case, I'm going to create one folder called the gRPC client. See, already if you see external communication, so here I'm having this user service client. iService client is there. So this is external services, contract dot external services, order service dot contract dot external services. So here we have defined this, right? I user service, I product service. So this is already defined. Now what I need to do, I don't want to touch my, right, what I can say, I don't want to touch this code. So this code should be there as it is, because today we are using gRPC. So for some reason gRPC not working, right, I can switch immediately to my RESTful based approaches so that my application work as expected, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to provide the same implementation of this iProduct service client, the same implementation for the iUser service client interface, right? But this time that implementation, that implementation will make use of a gRPC instead of a REST. So let me go ahead and create a class file, user service gRPC client. So in this case, let me go ahead and provide the implementations. Right, so this is gRPC client. So here this class file is inherited from the, right, what I can say, iUser service client. So if you look at this user service client, this is also inherited from the iUser service client, and this is also inherited from the iUser service client. Difference, it is using REST and this is going to use gRPC, right? And to work with the gRPC, that client class is already generated, right? And you can see that client class name is going to be user gRPC client. So user gRPC client, and this client already provided the method, right? You can see if you want to check whether the user exists or not, you can call this user exist method. This is the input object. This is the output object, right? So all these methods are already provided. We just need to use the methods, right? So user exist method. So I'm having this user ID and access token. So I want to call this user exist async method. So which is already implemented by services. Just use this client. So this is gRPC client instance, and this is a method. Call this method whatever the data is required. So user exist request data. So convert that user ID into toString because it is dealing with the string data. If any header is required, just pass the header. So this build header, this is going to generate the authorization header, which is going to pass the authorization token, right? So this is very simple, right? And we just need to call this method, and whatever the data it return. So now if you look at this user service client, so it is also returning a Boolean value. So indicating whether the user exists or not. And this method is also going to return a Boolean value exists. But the difference, this is using a REST-based approach, this is using right gRPC. So very similar to a method call. So technically, if you see, we are calling a local function, but internally it is making some network call. Clear?
Yes.
Now, get by user ID. Similarly, using this client, I just need to call this get by user ID method. Similarly, this get user address by ID. So whatever the address request data, that what I need to pass user ID and address ID at the header. That's it. And whatever the response it return, that response it return in the form of a rate prototype, get a user address by ID. So this data I need to convert into my DTO, which is required by the application layer. So I'm just converting that data. So save or update address, the same concept I'm applying here. So whatever the address DTO I'm receiving, I need to convert that address DTO into rate one type, that is going to be this address type, which is going to be defined by the proto. Just mapping the properties. That's it. So this is the build header. So very simple, very easy. Just create one class file and use the right gRPC client and invoke the method. If any header are required, then just pass those header. That's it. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create my product service gRPC client. So again, create a class file. This is going to handle the product related functionalities. So let me go ahead and create this one. Right. So this is my class file. So you can see the same gRPC client product. See, in previous case, I'm using user gRPC client. And now I'm going to use a product gRPC client, right? So using this client, I can call the method the way we are calling the method. So get product by ID method, right? Get product by ID async method where this method is implemented. Okay. This method is implemented here, get product by ID async method. So here you can see whatever the request object, adding those right product IDs and calling this method, and this is going to return me the data. Whatever the data is returned, that is what I'm converting to my TTO, right? So next you can see increase stock method is there, calling this method of the right gRPC, calling this method of the gRPC for decreasing the stock, and this is for adding the authorization header. So the logic is very simple. Create an instance of this client class, and this client class already know how to communicate with the right server through gRPC call. And what you need to do within the application call? So using this client class, just call the respective method. And for calling that method, whatever the input data required, just prepare the data. Whatever the data it return, is handle that data and convert that data to your DTO or whatever type you want to return to the application layer. Clear? Anyone having any doubt? Is that clear, guys? Clear or not?
Clear.
Right. So this is very simple. The logic I have explained many times, right? While I'm creating right a house, so for example, reply dot product. So I'm looping through all the products and preparing a product DTO. That ID, whatever it is there, I'm converting that to GUID, whatever the name I'm getting from this rate gRPC method called that repair. So here price, it is going to be a string. So I'm converting to decimal, discount price converting to decimal, stock quantity, and that's what I'm returning from here. Guys, give me 1 minute. Clear? Okay. So once this is done, then what is the next change? Next change is dependency injection. So now you can see this user service client and the product service client. Currently, they are using a HTTP client. So these two things I need to replace with my RPC client. So let me go ahead and do the same thing. See here what I'm doing. So this is a gRPC client. So gRPC client. So this is going to be user gRPC client. And for gRPC client, that base URL, right, I'm fetching from my app settings start configuration. If you look at the order service API, that app settings start JSON file, that the user service, product service base URL we have already set. That base URL it will set, and it will set the address property of this gRPC client. Same thing I'm doing for the product service client. But for the REST service, it is using HTTP client. And for this gRPC client, I'm using this add gRPC client. So these are the two changes that what we need to do. First of all, instead of HTTP client, now I'm using gRPC client. So using gRPC client, I'm specifying that for this user gRPC, what should be the address, and for product gRPC, what should be the address. And that address I'm getting from the app settings starter JSON file. And two more things I have to do changes now for I user service and I product service client. Right? I'm not going to use user service client or product service client. I'm going to use user service gRPC client and the product service gRPC client. For the payment and notification, the existing right RESTful based communication is there. But for user and product, that communication we have changed from user right RESTful to gRPC client. Clear? This changes is clear.
Yes.
Right. So with these changes, our application. So with these changes, our application is now ready. So we can test the functionality. So first of all, we need to start our console, right? Because we are using service discovery and API gateway. So let me go ahead and make sure our console service is ready. So once the console is ready, you can access the UI. So this is going to be my UI. So once your UI, right, then run the microservices. Right, run all microservices. Next step is you have to run all microservices. So go to project properties, multiple. So order, product, user, payment, orchestration, notification, e-commerce. So all these microservices we have making ready, and start this. So we need to make sure all these services are running. Yes. So now you can see all the services are registered and they are running as expected. So next what we need to do, we need to open our Postman. So let me open the Postman. So first of all, we need to generate the token. So let me send the request to get the token. So I'm getting the token. And by taking this token, I can create the order. So now go to the header, replace this token. This is my request body. And now I just need to check whether the request is being generated or not. So order is being created or not. So order is being created. That means our application is working as expected. Right. So this is how you need to work with. So orchestration service, not this one. Not this one. Right. So you can see everything. So just check the right whatever the logic statement we have written, they are executed or not. So So this is how you need to work with. Clear? Clear, guys? Okay. So this is how it is working. This is notification services. This is working. All the services are working. So whatever the logging statement we have written, if you have enabled Serilog, then just check the log file. It should be there, right? For example, product service gRPC client. So we have written the logging statement. So this is order service. So do you have the log folder here? Logging is enabled. I don't think so. So product service. This is for the product service related, right? So just enable the logging right everywhere and you should see the log statement. Right? For example, if you want to see gRPC product gRPC client, put a debugger pointer here. And the product gRPC client and the product service client. This one. So service product gRPC service. So we have provided here, and this is going to be order service dot infrastructure. Put the debugger pointer here and hit this one. This is product service gRPC client. This is now we are in the client code. So we are right preparing the data to be set. So you can see this is the request object, items, product ID, quantity, and this is the service call. So once I hit this one, you can see it is coming to my service class. So service class, it will execute and it will return the data and it will work as expected, right? That means our code is working as expected. Clear? Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is how you need to work with the gRPC. So tomorrow we are going to discuss CQRS. Anyone having any question, they can call me. Sorry, they can write ask me now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have questions like if you want to change any request property on gRPC, so first we need to change on a proto file, right?
Yes,
Then we
yes,
need to build and then we see property in our CS file,
exactly.
right? Okay.
Exactly, because this is the single source of a truth. This profile is the single source of truth. Because why?
Okay.
Because if you want to do the changes, that changes should be reflected in both the client and the services. How? This is the single. So you have to make the changes here, and then you need to rebuild
Uh,
your client
build.
application and server
Okay.
application. Automatically, those changes will be reflected there. And
Reflect.
once the changes reflected, whatever operation you want to do, you can do. I mean, whatever data
Okay.
changes, modification you can do it.
Okay. Okay.
Clear, guys? Okay.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
So tomorrow we are going to discuss another important concept that is CQRS, Common Query Repository Part. Right? So it's a very interesting concept we will discuss. Uh, anyone having any more question, guys?
So tomorrow is class. Actually,
Yeah,
tomorrow is Sunday.
yes, because right, I'm planning to take a session tomorrow because uh, right, many things are remaining and we need to complete the syllabus right as soon as possible. So many classes we have missed. So I'm planning to a session for tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.